Who the hell are you, man?
I am Venom. I'm just kidding. It's Dr. Michael Morbius at your service.
What's up, comic comrades? A new trailer has arrived for Morbius, the Sony Marvel joint in which Jared Leto, looking about as recognizable as Jared Leto has ever looked on screen, plays half-vampire, half-vigilante, half-himself Michael Morbius. But what does a half-vampire, half-vigilante do exactly? Except vampire murder, of course. Let me tell you about his powers and rank them. Stay tuned until the end of the video and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and suck the plasma out of that notification bell. Based on Roy Thomas and Gil Kane's 1917 comic books, the latest superhero film in Sony's Spider-Man universe follows Michael Morbius, a biochemist in search of a cure for his rare blood disease. After accidentally injecting himself with vampirism, Morbius receives bat-like powers like echolocation, flight, and of course an insatiable thirst for desperately trying to connect to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Blood. In the trailer, Morbius travels to a mysterious island to cure his ailment, only to go missing for 2 months and return with vampire powers. There are also some connections to Sony's fellow Spider-Man movies, including a cameo by Michael Keaton, who played Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, and a Venom name drop. The symbiote villain played by Tom Hardy teased a multiverse crossover in the post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage. So you have to watch the movie, otherwise Sony executives will be very sad. But let's start with Morbius' amazing powers. Super everything. Yup, everything Michael Morbius possesses is enhanced. He has superhuman strength, the extent of which depends on the amount of blood he has ingested and the type of blood. At his peak, Morbius possesses sufficient superhuman strength to lift approximately a medium-sized vampire-like sarcophagus. He can run and move at speeds that are beyond the natural physical limits of the finest human athlete. Morbius' enhanced musculature produces less fatigue toxins during physical activity than the musculature of a normal human. He can physically exert himself at peak capacity for several hours before the buildup of fatigue toxins in his blood begins to impair him. His agility, balance, bodily coordination, and reflexes are similarly enhanced, as are his senses of sight and smell. He is able to detect objects with perfect clarity at much greater distances, and retains that clarity even in near-total darkness. He is also able to see into the infrared end of the electromagnetic spectrum, allowing him to see individuals at night by their body heat. In the trailer, we see him use an echolocation of sorts, like a submarine, Mr. Wayne. His enhanced sense of smell allows him to detect blood in the air from miles away. Regenerative Healing Factor. Similar to most superheroes, Morbius possesses accelerated healing and can recover from mild to moderate injuries at a rate beyond that of ordinary humans. While not nearly as efficient as the healing possessed by Wolverine, Morbius has proven to be able to heal himself from multiple gunshot wounds in less than an hour. More serious injuries, such as broken bones or severe burns, might take several days to heal, although once it was shown to take minutes, even though it left him as a near-mindless creature that had to feed on blood to replenish the energy that was used to do so. He is unable to regenerate missing limbs or organs. Fangs and Claws. Like supernatural vampires, Morbius possesses elongated canines that he uses to pierce the flesh of other beings for the purpose of consuming their blood. He can also use his fangs as weapons in very close combat situations. He possesses a single retractable claw at the tip of each finger. The claws are very sharp, capable of rendering human flesh and bone with ease. Psionic Gliding. As showcased in the trailer, through mental concentration, Morbius can also glide through the air for short distances using his psionic abilities. According to the comics, Morbius can only glide at speeds of about 35 miles an hour, or in the case of the movie, as much as the plot needs it. Hypnotism. After absorbing elements of the linen into his bloodstream, Morbius gained the ability to hypnotize others if they looked directly into his eyes long enough. While the hypnosis lasts, Morbius typically has full control over an individual. He can use this power to convince others to cease attacking, and also uses it to force others to help him in battles or wipe out people's memories of events. If an individual has sufficient willpower, they can resist or even overcome the effect. This ability also helps Morbius resist attacks by the demon Despair and the empath named Wraith. Vampire creation. Like true vampires, Morbius is able to transform individuals into pseudo-vampires like him by draining them of all their blood. He has control over the pseudo-vampires he creates, just as supernatural vampires have mental control over the vampires they create. His creations possess superhuman strength, but do not come equipped with the accelerated healing factor. Upon receiving lethal injuries, their bodies turn to dust. Immunity to most vampire vulnerabilities. As Morbius isn't a supernatural vampire, he is immune to most of the other special mystical vulnerabilities that they have. He is unaffected if confronted with religious icons like crucifixes, and will not incinerate if exposed to direct sunlight. He does tend to rest during the hours of the day, but does not have any of the consequences of vampirism that supernatural vampires face during that time. He also has no special vulnerability to objects or weapons composed of silver or wooden stakes driven through his heart. Virtual immortality. Similar to Jared Leto, Morbius also doesn't age. When the character drank the blood of Fang, one of the Lilin, he gained the same abilities and was able to transform himself into a slime-like substance. He was later cured of this by Doctor Strange. As a byproduct of Morbius drinking Lilin blood, he became immortal. Genius intelligence. Is intelligence a superpower? Yeah, I think it definitely should be. Morbius is one of the world's foremost experts on biochemistry and blood-related diseases. His expertise enables him to create an antidote for his victims, curing them of their pseudo-vampirism, though the cure does not work on him. He is also able to put his hand to various other scientific disciplines, having won the Nobel Prize for biochemistry. While working for Armor, Morbius was head of the medical department and had access to a wide variety of medical technologies. He has developed a number of biochemical weapon systems to combat against zombies. Before revealing his #1 power, let's talk about a few of his weaknesses. The great thing about all superheroes and villains is the fact that they have characteristic weaknesses as well as eye-widening superpowers. Morbius has two classic weaknesses known to most vampire fans: hunger and sunlight. The case with most vampires is their inability to function at their heightened rate without being fed blood, normally from a human. If Morbius fails to feed, then his aforementioned abilities slow or altogether shut down. His manic hunger would also cloud his perception and judgment once the desire to feed has become too great. Sunlight is another of the vampire's vulnerabilities. Even though the white-hot heat cannot kill him, the rays have the ability to visually impair him, and his skin is highly sensitive to the light as well. Morbius also doesn't possess the abilities of shapeshifting or weather control, such as those exhibited by true vampires. Vampirism. In all fairness, Morbius' greatest superpower is to be a PG-13 rated bloodsucker. He has been transformed into a being similar to a vampire, and while his bite tends to be lethal, his victims do not necessarily become vampires themselves. And unlike other bloodsucking fiends, he is very much alive. Basically, think of him as an electric car version of the normally undead supernatural killing machines. Probably still not all that great for the world, but if you absolutely have to have them, it's definitely the better option. What makes Morbius a vampire and not just a mutated human is his desire and need to consume blood in order to sustain himself and his powers. It has not been established how often or what type of blood Morbius needs in order to maintain himself at peak levels. However, it is known that metahuman blood sustains him longer than that of normal humans. The radioactive elements within Spider-Man's blood caused Morbius' affliction to go into remission. With this in mind, Spider-Man was able to create a serum that allowed Morbius to avoid drinking blood for long periods of time. Michael also possesses a number of superhuman abilities, similar to those possessed by true vampires. We refer to Morbius as not being a true vampire as the source of his transformation is scientific, not mystical. Or is it? We don't know yet. I hope the writers do though. It looks as though the film may tweak the concept of Morbius' transformation. At the beginning of the trailer, the character takes the cure and gains the abilities of a vampire. However, he still looks like his normal self. It is not until later on, after Bloodlust is mentioned, where a close-up is featured, revealing his monstrous transformation. This could potentially mean two things. Firstly, it could just be that the cure isn't instantaneous. The abilities may come first, and the horrifying thirst for blood and transformation comes later. This would be interesting as Morbius might initially see his cure as a resounding success, before the physical and horrific changes happen. You know, what was thought to be a gift becomes a curse. It would tie in nicely to Morbius' question in the trailer: how far are we allowed to go to fix something that's broken? To which Jared Harris's character responds by saying, until the remedy is worse than the disease. Secondly, it could mean that without feeding, Morbius transforms into a mindless monster with white skin, red eyes and fangs until he gets blood. Perhaps after his thirst is sated, he then transforms into a normal human with his senses back. It would certainly be an interesting twist to the pseudo-vampire idea. After suffering multiple delays due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Morbius is currently set to hit theaters on January 28th, 2022. Fingers crossed, or rather uncrossed. I can wait. But if you have to choose which of his vampire powers to have, which one would you pick? I definitely enjoy gliding in the subway. Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Peace out.
And consume blood.
Michael.